Back to Miller. Oh my goodness.
Herbert.
Sidearm sling, and it's a touchdown.
Tyrese Maxey.
Oh, good spin move by Filipowski for the news. Give him 9.
All right, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Beef Upfront podcast. This is your host Ryan Coyle, back with the second episode in our NFL season preview series, where I'll be going through all 32 teams, breaking down each team and where I see them sitting in their respective standings, in their division, as well as their conference, whether they're making the playoffs or not. We already did the Philadelphia Eagles, who I have finishing in first place in the NFC East. Today we'll be going to my second place team in the NFC East, and that'll be the Dallas Cowboys, by no surprise. I do think the Giants are going to take a bit of a step back from last year, and I think the Cowboys are going to be kind of in that same ballpark as last year, competing for a wild card spot. I have them going 10-7. That gives them a 4-2 division record and the number 5 overall seed in the NFC. So they'll be one of the 3 wild card teams in the NFC next season. Last year, they had a pretty successful season for recent Cowboys standards, I guess you could say. They went 12-5. Most years that would win the division, but the Eagles went 14-3 last year. That got them second place in the division, that 12-5 record, and they were able to go and win the wild card game against the Bucs in the 4-5 game, but then they eventually lost to the 49ers in the divisional round 19-12. The Cowboys are, America's team, so-called, I guess you could say, but haven't really lived up to that hype ever. And then this year, I'm hearing a lot of buzz that, the Eagles are viewed as the unanimous number 1 team in the NFC right now. And a lot of people are saying the 49ers are potentially the team that could upset them or could dethrone them from the NFC. But there's also a lot of buzz, especially around Philadelphia, that we should be most scared of the Cowboys just due to Dak at quarterback, most likely being the second best quarterback in the NFC behind Jalen Hurts. So a big year for Dak Prescott, I think, if he wants to kind of get that throne back as the best quarterback in the NFC East, potentially even the NFC now with Aaron Rodgers out of the realm. But I do have the Cowboys going 10-7, as I said, earning the 5 seed and making it to the wild card matchup. And then at the end of this series, we'll do a full episode breaking down my entire playoff bracket and going for the who's going to be winning the playoff games and going through the playoffs and winning the Super Bowl eventually. So Cowboys 10-7 getting the 5 seed. This team, when you look at their offensive side of the ball, Kellen Moore last year, their offensive coordinator, the past few years actually, he's out as a play caller. He's in Los Angeles now with the Chargers, and Mike McCarthy is back in the saddle as the new look play caller, which could lead to a different looking offense for Dak Prescott at quarterback and company around him. Also, a couple familiar faces that we've kind of gotten accustomed to seeing in Dallas Cowboys uniforms over the past few years are out the door, with longtime, superstar running back Ezekiel Elliott release. Sounded like there was a potential for him to come back, maybe on a 1 or 2 year cheaper deal than what he was getting. But it does sound like that door has kind of closed. Who knows if Tony Pollard unable to return to form due to his injury, and maybe Ezekiel Elliott does get brought back. And then they also weren't able to re-sign an emerging star tight end Dalton Schultz. He developed a really nice rapport and relationship with Dak Prescott last year, but he went in free agency and signed with another team in Texas, with the Houston Texans. So 2 kind of key cogs to last year's offense out for the Cowboys. But this offense, I think, is still in position to put up points with Dak at the quarterback spot. He does need to limit his turnovers, though, if he wants to take that spot back from Jalen Hurts and be the best quarterback in the NFC East. He threw 15 picks last year, and he only played in 12 games. So you kind of put that over a 16 or a 17 game pace, he's probably throwing closer to 17 or 18 interceptions. The backfield this year is headlined by Tony Pollard, a very explosive, like Alvin Kamara during the beginning of his career. It's weird to say his prime, but like those first 2 or 3 years for the running back is usually when we see them be very, very good. And then we're kind of seeing the tail end of Alvin Kamara's career right now, and he's only in year like 6 or 7. It's kind of weird to say that, but just the way the NFL is with running backs these days and their short shelf lives. But he's a player with Tony Pollard that can do the work in the passing game, but he also can take a run and turn it into, a 4 or 5 yard gain to like an 80-yard run to the house. A very explosive player. They call him playmaker TP for a reason. He's coming off an injury as well, though, and this is his first crack at being an every down back. So Will Tony Pollard be able to handle a full lion's share of the carries this year? We'll see, especially coming off an injury as well. Are they able to ease him in? They do have Malik Davis, I believe, in the backfield behind him, and then Deuce Vaughn, the rookie running back out of Kansas State, who very good college player, but very short, only like 5'5", 5'6". So going to be a major question mark. The depth, I think, behind Pollard, especially with Zeke out, and can Pollard handle the full workload? That's going to be something that needs to be monitored this year, because Dak Prescott, when he's been at his best, has had a really good running game behind him. When you look at the receivers for this team, CeeDee Lamb is looking to continue the strong start to his young NFL career. He's one of the best receivers in the game, and especially one of the best receivers when it comes to having the ball in his hands. Michael Gallup is back. He's looking to be fully healthy now after last season being limited at the beginning. And they also went out and acquired speedster Brandon Cooks, who has just produced at every stop in his NFL career. I think that's one of the more underrated pickups of the entire offseason. A guy that's consistently gone over 1,000 yards, and he's played at New Orleans, with the Rams in LA, with the Patriots. That most recently he was with the Texans, and now he's with the Cowboys. Let's see if he can continue that. But I think that's the type of receiver Dak Prescott really likes, a guy that can just flat out fly and just throw it out and hope he chases it down. I think that's going to be a really good addition to their offense. Tight end, as I talked about, with Dalton Schultz out going to the Texans, Jake Ferguson is currently the starting tight end on their depth chart. So that's a question mark, a guy that's pretty unproven in this league. And the offensive line, which has been so good for so long, it's kind of taken a few steps back these past few years. Some guys have left free agency, gotten injured, retired. The offensive line is a bit of a question mark, I think, as Zach Martin, one of the best guards, if not the best guard in the NFL, is holding out due to a contract dispute. Does he come back? Does he play? I assume they eventually get that resolved, but that's a major question mark right now. And then Tyron Smith was viewed as one of, if not the best left tackle in the NFL for a good five-year stretch, but he's past his prime, he's injury-riddled, and he's due to miss games each and every season. So when your two highest paid offensive linemen are major question marks right now, that's leaves you a bit worrisome, especially with a guy like Dak Prescott, who had that major ankle injury before. Tyler Smith should be their first-round pick of last season out of Tulsa. He should be an up-and-coming player, had a really nice first year and was able to fill in some different spots on the offensive line. And then Tyler Biadasz and Terrence Steele fill out the rest of the offensive line, with Biadasz at center, Terrence Steele at right tackle. Pretty solid, reliable players there. But there are some question marks on the offensive side of the ball this year in Dallas. Defense, I'm higher on the defensive unit of this team than the offense, and I think they could be one of the more fun and opportunistic groups on that side of the ball in the NFL this year. They have some really big-name players, especially with Micah Parsons, arguably the best defensive player in all of football behind Aaron Donald. You could make an argument for him, Nick Bosa, Myles Garrett. I think those are really like the four guys, especially out of the pass rushers. Throw TJ Watt in there as well for the best defensive players in all of football that aren't Aaron Donald, but especially when it comes to rushing the passer. And then long-time shutdown corner, another splashy offseason move by the Cowboys. Let's see if he's still able to play at that prime level that we've seen from him. But Stephon Gilmore coming in to be the cornerback on the opposite side of Trayvon Diggs, who the day of recording this on July 25th, Trayvon Diggs just got a big contract extension. It looks like that's going to be their corner duo for this year if they're both able to stay healthy. And that's a pretty good duo, especially when you have to contain guys like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith if you're going to want to win the NFC East and top the Eagles this year. But Trayvon Diggs, as much as he gets bashed on for kind of getting beat on those double moves or biting on a lot of pump fakes or whatnot, he's as good as any corner in the league when it comes to turning over the football and making game-changing plays. Your team could be driving down for a potential game-winning drive, a game-winning field goal, and he could jump a pass and take it to the house for 6. He can really flip the switch of a game, and I think that's why he's so valued by this Dallas Cowboys franchise. Leighton Vander Esch, one of the better linebackers in the middle of the defense in the entire NFL, when healthy. He's probably like a top 10 to 12 linebacker, but another guy that struggles to stay on the field due to his health. And the defensive line is up there with Philadelphia as one of the best groups in the entire NFC. A very strong unit. The depth isn't crazy good as Philadelphia and San Francisco are, but their front the main contributors on that team is a very good group. DeMarcus Lawrence, still very good player, isn't what he once was, but still a very solid defensive end, and he's able to both rush the passer and defend the run. Osa Odigizua, another very good defensive tackle, really has emerged these past few years. rookie defensive tackle and their first-round pick, Mozzie Smith out of Michigan. He figures to be a strong add as well. And then when you, as we already touched on the corners, when you look at the safeties, that's a pretty serviceable duo with Malik Hooker and Donovan Wilson. Pretty serviceable, but nothing really to write home about or rave about there. But I do think that's going to be a fun defensive group to watch this year in terms of causing turnovers and being really productive when it comes to flipping some games for them. I think they're going to be able to cause a lot of turnovers, have a lot of interceptions, and some big-time sacks as well with that pass rush. Coach grade, I'm going to give Mike McCarthy a B-, another guy that I think kind of gets a bad rap at times. He's not the greatest game manager, but still, he's a guy that consistently wins, won 12 games last year, won the division the year before, won a Super Bowl. I know that was a while ago with Green Bay, but consistently had that Packers team in the playoffs. He's a guy that wins, and if he continues to put up 12-5 seasons, he's going to stick around. He just eventually has to get over that hump that the Cowboys haven't been able to get to a conference championship game in over 20 years. My breakout player, I'm going to go with offensive lineman Tyler Smith. This is a team that has a lot of guys that are like really established. No one really suited, I think, for an ultimate breakout. Tyler Smith had a pretty impressive rookie year out of Tulsa after being scrutinized a bit as a draft pick. But if you want to give the Cowboys major credit for one thing, they do a really good job in the draft at drafting talented players. Sometimes it doesn't always work out with off-the-field stuff or longevity, but talent-wise, the Cowboys are as good as any franchise in the NFL at drafting guys. And they found another good guy in Tyler Smith last year that showed the ability and the versatility to move up and down the offensive line. I think he should continue the trend of the Cowboys finding good, talented players on the offensive line that we've seen him do for a while now and really develop that good group of linemen up front. My games to watch for this Cowboys team, I have week 4 at the 49ers. That's on Sunday Night Football, a long-time Cowboys, 49ers, old-school type rivalry, a matchup from last year in the playoffs as well. 2 of the top teams most likely in the NFC right there facing off early in the year. And then week 14, their home game versus the Eagles on Sunday Night Football. That'll be a key one as we get later in the season. Who will be on top of the division going into that game? Could that game, the winner of that, potentially flip the scripts? And the Cowboys, especially coming from an Eagles fan, it hurts me to say this, but they've really dominated this rivalry head-to-head over the past few years. The Eagles have more success, obviously, in the playoffs with the Super Bowl and getting back to the Super Bowl last year. But the past few years, the Cowboys have gotten the better half of the Eagles, so that's another big game on their schedule. But I do see a somewhat successful year for the Cowboys, going 10-7, earn that 5 seed in the NFC, and getting back to the playoffs in the wild card again. But that'll do it for the second episode of part of our NFL divisional preview series for this upcoming 2023 season. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and our next episode will be featuring the New York Giants, and we will talk soon.